Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, and welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She is a woman seeking greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her conversations will introduce you to talented women who will speak to your spirituality, your sensuality, and your soul. They share their stories and explain how they are in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. This week, my guest on Her Conversations is Sequoia Henning, who is founder of Feeling Soul Good, her company that runs international yoga teacher trainings. I met Sequoia when I travelled to India in February 2017 to study yoga, and I was inspired by the way that she had followed her calling and created a life around it. So many of us talk about aspirations to travel or to start a business, and yet most of us have these wishes that then remain unfulfilled. It was Sequoia's willingness to answer her calling that drew me to her, and I know will inspire you. So as we speak, you'll learn how she discovered yoga, pranayama, meditation, mantra, and healed herself, what characteristics you need to develop when you are a single woman travelling around the world, and also how to open up and allow magic to guide you, and of course so much more. As always, I open each episode by asking my guests, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel at your most HER?
I feel I'm most HER when I'm connected to source, to spirit. And I find this connection on a daily basis through my personal sadhana, consciously connecting to the elements, the earth, for nourishment, the water, for fluidity, the sun for transformation and illumination, and the breath to connect me to my spirit. That's when I feel like I'm HER.
Perfect, thank you. And I just want to find out a bit more about how your life has taken you, where it's brought you from, and how it's led you into the life you lead and the work that you do today.
Yeah, my journey started with in my teens, a lot of addictions to drugs and alcohol. And I realized I had a problem with the drugs and alcohol taking over my life. And it was when I was in India in 1992, where the Babas, these holy men, these guys that were smoking a lot of hashish, would come up to me and they would ask me if I wanted to smoke a chillum. And I didn't have the strength to say no. And it was in reflection after one of those times where I was sitting there going, I have a serious problem. Shortly after that, I was walking down the street and I saw this sign and it said, no chillum, no hash, no alcohol, no drugs, no onions, no garlic. And I was like intrigued to know what this place was. And I wanted to stay there because I need help and this would help me. So I went inside and I said, can I stay here? And they said, well, you can only stay here if you do yoga. And I'm like, I don't know what yoga is, but I'm willing to do that. So that was the beginning of my yogic journey, and also the transformation of having an addiction lead my life to having my spirit lead my life. And that was a huge change, because if I fast forward that, it brings me into encouraging others to become self-empowered, to tap into their inner guidance, their inner willpower and strength to make change.
So how long did you stay at that place, and kind of what were like the early days like, and when you were like working through this new yoga thing?
Yeah, it was interesting. I never really had a plan other than I needed to keep busy and away from those guys who were offering me this hash. it was 6 weeks in total. I did a morning practice and with an 88-year-old Swami at Shivananda. And then I did an evening practice at Omkarananda. And it was, both of them were 2-hour practices. And fast forwarding after that 6 weeks, I just, all of a sudden, this natural organic change just happened. I no longer had the desire for smoking or intoxicating my body in any way. I wanted to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. I wanted more lightness in my life, not only in the food sense, but also in the energy that I would accompany myself beside. The decisions I made were different, and it just happened without me thinking about it, organically.
And when did you make the decision, or how did you get to the point where you felt that not only was it because it had changed your life, that you were now going to make it a way of life for yourself and then ultimately turn it into a business for yourself?
I think it was after that journey, it was so strong for me. It started my daily asana practice and pranayama and meditation practice. So in Sanskrit, we call this sadhana. That was the beginning of my daily sadhana, where I would every day meet myself in various practices. And I would go back to the West and I could see, okay, I missed a few days of practice. I need to go back to India so I can establish a stronger practice again, to have some guidance and inspiration. As I continued to do that, my friends saw this. They wanted to join me. I got into the healing arts, and I was constantly going back, sharing 50% in Canada, 50% in India, and I needed to make a decision of being in one place. And so I decided it to be India. And there was a magical series of events that took place, which opened a door for me to teach pranayama and meditation in India. And then I was witnessing so many people transform on these yoga trainings, which I was part of now, which I have been part of for 10 years. I just wanted more of that, because it was really a seed to give people the confidence that they needed in whatever they're going to do in life. And yoga is the medium, but it's really presence and showing up for ourselves and being responsible and accountable for what we do and think in our life.
Who was your first teacher then? Who kind of like taught you through your teacher training? Where did you do that?
My first teacher was, I had two. One was Swamiji. His name was only Swamiji to me. And the other one was Krishnaji. He was the 88-year-old guy. He was funny. And my first teacher training I did in jungle in Thailand with David and Marina. And it was a 3-month program that only gave a 200-hour certification and it was 3 months every day in the jungle. And I did my own sadhana on top of the training. So for me, I went really, really deep. I feel like I've married my sadhana. Like it's really what I feel I'm married to, because it brings me my groundingness, my insight, my inspiration, and it brings me insight that no one can give me other than myself.
For me, you are the epitome of a free spirit. You know, you kind of live with two countries, but like you say, you're kind of based more in India. Where do you feel that lust for travel came from, and the fact that you did it? Because so many people talk about wanting to travel and see the world, and like such a minute percentage ever do it. What gave you the confidence or the drive or the push to just go and see what this calling was about?
I feel it was just the adventure of it, and not projecting my story of what if. And also, the first journey I took outside of Canada, I was 18, and my mother said, why do you want to go to Jamaica? That's not a good place. And because my mother's never been to Jamaica, just gave me that driving wheel to go, okay, you know what? I'm going to go because she says I shouldn't go. And it was more about my dynamics with my mother at that time. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to show her how great Jamaica is, even though she hasn't been there. And the first time I went to India, it was through something called Canada World Youth, and it was an exchange program. And going firsthand to India with a group and kind of being guided to everything that I was doing really gave me the strength to come back. Because one thing that I absolutely love about India, there's many things I love, is that the people will respond to you. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. If you're talking to any Indian, you just say, hi, where are you going? Can you tell me what time it is? Do you know where the post office is? Anything. And there's a response. Even if someone's eating and you say, hey, what are you eating? They'll respond. And in the West, there's a lot of reaction. There's a lot of defense. You look at somebody and you say, oh, have a great day. They're all like, why did that person just tell me to have a great day? There's a lot of defense. And in India, there's a lot of people and they're curious. And they also are taught that the guest is God. And so after having the firsthand experience with this group, I could see that it's a very safe place. Mm. And as time has forwarded since my first journey, the internet has been accessible, and it has changed some people's perception. I still feel it's a safe place, but as any woman walking by herself at night, you have to dress properly. There's certain protocol that you have to follow, so you don't attract people, and you have to be strong to say no, because there's a lot of guys who want to talk to you, and you can't talk to everybody.
And what, in your experience, because you've spent so long in India and understanding India, what do you think it is about the Indian culture that allows them to be so open, whereas we, like you say, rightfully on the West, are so defensive and suspicious even when someone pays us a compliment? What do you think it is about them that they're so open to accepting people?
I think it's the way the culture is, that everything is just happening. There's so many people, it's kind of like, there's not very much structure from the way that they drive to the way that they organize things. There's not a lot of structure. And in the West, there's too much structure. It's like everyone is in a line and you have to drive in a line, and you need this piece of paper before you can go and do this event. And there's too much structure and control. And in India, it's just part of everything is just unfolding in an organic way, and it's just happening. And there's not a lot of like analyzing on what's happening. It's just part of what's happening. And in that free flowing allowance, it brings this acceptance to whoever you are. There's not a lot of judgment that comes from the Indian people. There's a lot of respect. And I feel that there's also a huge influence of their spirituality. You know, it's huge. And there's a respect. They respect the woman, they respect their mother, they respect. And my personal feeling in North America, there's not so much respect, not only to one another, but mainly to ourselves. That's why there's so many addictions and so much harm to oneself.
How do you then, how do you split your time now between those two continents? How are you doing it? Is it half and half, or do you spend more time in India? And I know you spend a lot of time in Bali as well.
Well, it's very interesting because as a single woman, which I am right now, and I've been for quite some time, you can't be a weak woman to be here. And over the time that I've been here, I've learned to stand up for myself. I've learned to say no. I've learned to, call a spade a spade. And that's a masculine quality. And I've got it, and it's really nice. Yet I know that it influences my sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight system. If I'm traveling somewhere and I'm by myself, I got to be careful that I don't get grabbed. So I'm always on guard, opposed to relaxed. So after spending more than 25 years of my life abroad, part-time in India, I'm deciding now that my next move will be more in a softer environment, as Bali is that place for me. And Bali has huge devotion into their spirituality, and they're soft. And if we look at how the two cultures are, it's a reflection of their collective consciousness. So in India, the collective consciousness of Hinduism, they make ceremonies and offerings to the fire. And hence their culture is like fire. They're loud, it's chaotic, it's intense, and they're very much like fire. And if we look at the other side in Bali, where they're also Hindu, they honor all elements as well, but they make huge ceremonies with the water. They're soft speaking, they're calm, and you'll never see a Balinese person freaking out on somebody because that's not within their system. And they're very much like the water. And I feel that my own reflection of my inner elements requires more femininity and more softness. I have it, but we become the environment we're in. So it feels more like I'm in the parasympathetic nervous system when I'm in Bali. Things are more relaxed. I'm not defensive. No one is trying to sneak me somewhere, or, no one's trying to con me into something, which happens in India because there's a billion people here. There's over a billion people here.
I get that. I hear what you're saying very much about moving to an environment where you feel more feminine. I mean, even in London, as a single woman, I know I feel that in myself, that there's a little bit too much kind of gruff and always watching the back, and a bit too masculine about it. And I'm definitely wanting to bring out those softer sides in myself, and working out ways that I can do that without feeling vulnerable. Obviously with so much that's happening so much awareness that's happening in the media with kind of the Me Too campaign about women kind of connecting and standing up for themselves, it's finding the line where you can be feminine and still be assertive without kind of stepping into that hard-edged masculine way of being as well. You can be a strong woman without having to be bullish about the thing as well. So I think we're all learning across the world what that means to be the new phase of what a woman's going to be going forward. And are there things as well when you're talking about getting in touch with your femininity? Are there things within your practice? Are there, I don't know, when you're teaching as well, when you have a new group of students come to you, are there things that you kind of get them to connect to themselves in order to kind of get in touch with that femininity and kind of express that on a daily basis?
I've been following the cycles of the moon for the past 25 years, and it's part of any retreat or training that I offer is a new moon or a full moon ceremony, an eclipse. And I work with the fire ceremony, and I also work with the Native American pipe ceremony. I was gifted one quite a few years back. And so depending on where I am will depend on what kind of ceremony we have. But the connection to the moon is the feminine quality on the external side, and the connection to the sun is the masculine quality on the external world of elements. And we talk a lot about emotions, and that is also a feminine trait. And whatever it is that I'm teaching, I really invite the students to notice how they're feeling. When you're coming to your mat, for example, each moment you are responding to this moment of how you feel. And if we listen to this inner guidance, it's going to give us a different class every day if we have our own personal practice. Because what I'm feeling like today, if it is my moon time, I need a more yin practice. I need to go slower. If I'm feeling like very lethargic and I haven't moved for a while, I might have this outburst of energy and I want to move faster. So inviting the students to listen to their feelings, which is our greatest guidance system, is also an aspect to connecting to our divine feminine.
So when did you decide that you were going to turn your love of yoga into a business and base it abroad mainly? And how did you kind of go about pulling all of that together? Because a lot of people in this space, that they always have this, as well as wanting to travel, it's like the idea of being able to hold retreats and then make a living out of their love and then get other people involved. When did you make that step and how did you go about it?
I had a big awakening when I was 30. It was a time that I was diagnosed with the worst case of Crohn's disease that the gastrointestinal floor had ever seen. There was like 5 doctors diagnosed me as saying it was the worst they've ever seen. So I had to come back to Canada, go into the hospital, get all these tests. And the short story of this journey was I healed myself. I took their medication for a little bit, but I healed myself through all the techniques that I had been studying. Sound healing, mantras, pranayama, visualization, affirmations, and tuning in to my higher self. So some people may get their response as a voice. Some people might get a vision. Some people might have the knowing. It doesn't matter how it is for you, but it's the messages that's coming through and you feel it strong. You feel like there's a charge of energy. So after healing myself, I'm just like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Look how powerful this is. And I'm like, I want to help other people do this. So that was my driving force, because it's like, then it came beyond just yoga. It's all like, wow, look at all of these practices, how beneficial they are. I see it as my healthcare system. I'm in care of my own health. And so I started working for somebody else, and I took another pranayama teacher training course. I started teaching pranayama. I saw my own personal transformation. I went deeper into mantras. And I started to see firsthand from my own experiences of how this is real, magical, powerful stuff. And my experiences connects with asana, but it's even beyond that, because it's all about frequency and vibration and thought and belief. And I started to tap into, what am I believing? What am I believing I'm receiving? And I'm projecting it out. And so all of that just kind of funneled into the yoga teacher training. As I worked for somebody else for 8 years, it was this container that we created to support these people we've never met, remembering their own self-worth, their inner power, their guidance to listen inside. And it's through these practices that you can do that. Now, I put an intention out there very clearly to the universe that I want to teach yoga in India. And I'm like, okay, where can I do this? And I'm like, I know that Goa has quite a few international people. I'm going to go to Goa. I didn't really want to go to there, and I knew a lot of Western people did. And I went and I did many hours of research in Goa of like different retreat centers and stuff. And I couldn't find many that I wanted to get into. And I thought, I'll just get into the retreat center, I'll volunteer, and then I'll meet people, and doors will open. I know that. And I had such a strong belief with this. So I contacted 3 places only. And one place took me as a volunteer. And the other 2 places said, that they don't hire people they don't know. I said, okay. So I went to the place that I was hired as a volunteer, and I had just completed a pranayama teacher training course. It was a month long. And I'm sitting at this big table with a bunch of people, and I'm talking to the woman on the left of me. And she says to me, what did you do before you came to this retreat center? And I said, oh, well, I went to a pranayama teacher training course. And then the lady on the right, who I never even noticed, says to me, what? You teach pranayama? Do you want to teach pranayama on my yoga teacher training? And I was just like shocked, because I'm all like, who are you? And do I teach? And wow, what a great opportunity. And I'm like, it was so shocking that I'm all like, give me your contact and I'll meditate on it. So when I went and I checked out her contact, it was one of those two other people that I contacted before. I had already been in contact with her. And she's the one who said, I only hire people that I meet or that I know. And so since I already wrote her, I'm all like, okay, well, the divine has brought us together. And I just said, yes. Like without asking any questions, I'm like, yes, we need to be working together. And really, she's been a great mentor for me. She's taught me a lot, like on making things happen, not just talking about things. And I thought I was that kind of person before I met her. And then she showed me, no, she really makes things happen. And it's just about prioritizing my energy and being clear on what I want to manifest.
And do you have, I like that story, do you have any other amazing serendipitous stories like that have happened? I'm sure in the place in India.
Geez, I have many. But you know what I'd like to share is one that took place in the West, because I want to let people know that magic doesn't just happen in India. Because I can tell you many in India, but then I want people to understand that magic is wherever we are. So here's one about the power of mantra. The energy of Ganesha helps to remove obstacles. And yes, it's depicted as an elephant god, but it's also tuning into a frequency that's available to anybody, regardless of religion or belief. You must believe it's possible to remove obstacles. So one day I was applying for my visa to India, and I was 5 hours east of Vancouver, and I get this phone call saying that there was a problem with my visa. And I was all stressed out. I wonder what happened. Why is there a problem? And I reviewed it 5 times. So I took a bus into Vancouver, and I got a taxi to take me to the forest, which is beside the ocean. And I was about to do my sadhana in the forest, but I didn't want the taxi driver to know that I was walking to the forest. So I got him to drive me at the ocean, and I would just walk to the forest. And as I'm walking, I get this inner feeling that says, turn around. And it was really strong. And I'm like, I don't want to turn around. I want to go to the forest. But it was so strong that I eventually listened to it, and I turned around and I went the opposite way, and it brought me to the ocean. I had to go over the rocks. And then I sat there, and I was doing my meditation, and then I went into the reciting of Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha, which is a mantra to remove obstacles, calling in the energy of Ganesha. So I did this for a long time. And when I did open my eyes, it was light out. So I walked over the rocks, and now I go into the Pacific Ocean, which is very cold, and I just make an honor to the water. And I come out, and I pan through the beach, and I see something really bright, and it's just grabbing my attention, and it's just in the distance, and I can't see what it is, but it's really strong. And it was so strong that I'm like, I need to do this again. So I pan again from the left all the way to the right. And I'm like, okay, what is that over there? So I go walking over there, and lo and behold, there's a brand new statue of Ganesha, brand spanking new. And it was like within minutes, the statue of Ganesha would have went swimming. And it was in perfect condition. And I was just like, well, that's so cool. Did I manifest that? Like, how did that happen? I've never seen a statue of Ganesha on any beach anywhere in Canada. So that was pretty magical.
Yeah, such a great one. I'm just even just more curious about how then you started feeling so good.
I started feeling so good. That was another magical thing. Um, it's a whole other story. I needed to overcome my fear of the darkness and being alone. And I'm very influenced also by the Native American tradition. I'm part Cree, which is from the plains of Canada. And even though I wasn't culturally enriched by this culture due to the cultural genocide, what happened in North America, I gravitate towards the ceremonies. And one of the teachings that I have been given is wherever you go, you make an offering. So I made an offering to go into the forest and be alone for 7 days. And it was in that time that I wanted to have a name for my company that I could use for what I'm about to do, and that was healing work. And even when I went there, I didn't even know where I was going. I just went to Vancouver Island, and I offered tobacco many times and asking to be guided to a place where I'd be safe, where I would be alone for 7 days, and I would get deep insight, overcome my fear of the darkness, and receive the name for my company. And I ended up on logging roads. I actually ended up being lost, to be honest. And I get to this one place. I had my own lake, and for the first couple of days, I lived in my van, and then I felt strong to eventually go into my tent. And on day 4, I think it was, I noticed that my tire was flat. And at that time, I was in my 20s, and I'm like, oh no, I was in my 30s. I offered more tobacco and another prayer. Oh, Great Spirit, would you please help me on day 7 fix this tire, because I don't know how. And I have no idea how I'm going to do this. So I just offered that, and I let it go. I didn't even think about it again. So in that time while I was there for 7 days. I didn't see anybody but bears. I saw a lot of bears. I overcame my fear of the darkness. And on day 7, some guy comes up who's a mechanic, fixes my tire, and gives me a map on how to get out, because he used to work for the forest department. And so I'm like, oh, this is so great. I'm feeling so good. And so when people would go off the table, when I was doing any kind of session, they'd go, oh, I feel so good. And you can't tell if like so good or so good. And then that transformed into my sound work, and it's all about feeling so good. And then it transformed into my yoga trainings and my retreats. And it's really how I see life. Life is too short to feel anything other than good. And we're responsible for how we feel. And it's really my motto in life. It's all about feeling good, because when you feel good, everyone else around you feels good, because our emotions are contagious.
The magic always seems to happen around you, Sequoia.
Yeah, well, I believe in magic. And I think that has a big part of it. Like, we create the reality we live in. I don't watch TV. I don't read the newspapers. I create my reality by seeing what's good around. But I have a drama-free life. And once we start to unplug ourselves from what doesn't feel good, what's left is like the attitude of gratitude. Another ritual I have every day is tuning into the attitude of gratitude of whatever is in front of me, whatever I have, and seeing so many poor people in my life and in my journey. So many poor people. I am so grateful for the abundance I have, and mainly is my experiences and the richness of each interaction with so many beautiful people.
I mean, that's one thing that I will always remember about India as well, is just not just fully appreciating what I had. And I think especially when we're here in the West as well, and even if you try and take your eyes off the media or anything like that, it's still very much a consumer's mentality, and then going to going to somewhere like India, which will just forever leave a stamp on my heart, basically, because of what it showed me in terms of the environment and also the people that I met there, including your good self. Really just came, and it came at the time in my life that I needed just to see something completely different and throw myself out of it. And just to let you know as well, and you can probably appreciate this, that it took me a while to kind of settle back into London. When I got back, it was like I didn't know. It was a good month or so before I was like, I just didn't know what to do. It was a hard kind of thing. You came back and you see everyone has so much stuff and it's still not enough, and you get I felt quite annoyed by the whole thing, because I remember when we went down one morning to the Ganges, just seeing, like, you see all the people on the steps, and there's entire families sleeping underneath a blanket, and then coming out and then still saying their prayers and still having that spiritual belief or anything like that. And I remember a man reaching up to me, like, wanting me to give him some money, and he didn't even have a hand. It was like, that is like one of the things that will remain in my mind for a long time, is the fact that he kind of reached out, and it's like, but there's no hand for me to even put this money in there for you as well. So that's I feel, I'll be back for sure. But it just opened up another part of me that you think you've got, but I'd recommend it to everyone. And similarly as well, when I mentioned, when it became known that I was going to India, there were some people that completely questioned it, who had never been. They're like, what do you want to go there for? And you need to be careful, and you're going to get food poisoning and all the rest of it. It's like, I was fine. I was fine. I wasn't afraid. Like, it was kind of a group experience, even though I arrived on my own. Even like the last 2 days, I spent a couple of nights in Delhi. So that was a completely different thing from Rishikesh, So I suppose that was me acclimatizing back to the madness of a city, just spending a couple of days in Delhi.
Yeah.
And just kind of watching the traffic and just going, those lines, what are they there for? Why did you paint the lines on the road?
Right.
It is hilarious. Like, if anything, it's like, just go for a drive in Delhi. Just the crack, just to see. It's brilliant the way that they just handle it. It's like, I'm going this way and everyone's going that way, and the lines, I don't know why they bothered painting them. It's pointless.
Yeah, I know. It's funny.
It is really, really funny. And the fact that the horn is not even, the horn is actually part of the steering wheel. And I think that was another thing as well, because over here, when you use your horn, it's to make a point. There, it's just like, I'm in the car and the horn is on continuously.
Yeah, they encourage it. They encourage it. And it's written on certain trucks, please use horn.
And they do. It's on. It's brilliant. It's fun. It's like a fairground ride. It's the best. So just to ask you some of the other questions that I like to find out from all of my guests on Her Conversations, what would you say is the best piece of advice a woman has ever given to you?
Well, this is not a one person. It's not one advice. It's not one person. And what comes to my mind when you say this is like my grandmother. She was a dear soul, a woman that worked way too hard, and she had Alzheimer's before she passed, and I would go visit her and she wouldn't know who I was. And just before my last time that I seen her, and I'm like, Grandma, I'm not going to see you again. What words of advice do you have for me? And then all of a sudden there was this oxygenated blood that went to her head, and she's like, she looks at me and she goes, well, don't take any wooden nickels now. And I'm like, okay. You know, the advice from women, I feel like I haven't got so much because I've been so long in India and I've traveled so much that I kind of I've just learned from experience. But that really hit when she said that. I'm like, okay, I won't take any wooden nickels. I got it. Thank you. Because I actually asked for advice.
A great one. And which female do you think represents higher energetic resonance?
Well, I wish I knew fully because, you know, there's always more than we can see, right? Like, I don't know these people personally. But the two women that I would say that come to my mind is Deva Premal, who's a kirtan artist, but she's also a devotee of Osho, and our spirit comes through our voice, and our soul is transmitted through our voice, and she sings very well. And just reading some of her stories, it seems like she's really on top of it, in that alignment with herself. And the other woman that comes to my mind is Marianne Williamson. I've heard her speak a few times and read some of her books, and she's just inspiring, empowering. I really love her words of wisdom that she shares. So I would say these two women.
Perfect, thank you. And what would you say would be your favorite self-care ritual, self-care practice that you have?
Being still and watching and connecting consciously to the elements. So it doesn't matter what element, but connecting to one of these elements on a daily basis.
Do you still do your walks? Do you still go into the mountains and things?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Every year I do a self. I don't say it's a vision quest, but I definitely do my own little retreat because I get a lot of downloads. And it's super important for me to offer that tobacco. And so I'll go somewhere between 3 and 7 days. And this year, when I return back to Canada, I have a new location that I'm going on. It's in the interior of British Columbia. I'll be going there for 7 days. I'm going to plan either between 5 or 7 days, depending on the weather, by myself. And I'm quite excited because I always get so many gifts, and I feel this vulnerability and connection to spirit that is I've never received from any one person. And I don't have fear because I'm there with reverence, and I'm just constantly making these offerings and giving gratitude for all the gifts that are around me.
Beautiful. You should write a book, or have you written a book yet about your journeys?
Oh, there's so many journeys. It's just so magical. If I was writing a book, and then I would be missing the journey of this moment. And no, I know I have too much to say on the journey. No, I haven't.
Or maybe retrospectively, because the stories that you have to tell are so inspiring and just so beautiful. It'd be nice, to share them out a bit more. So what is next for you and Feeling Soul Good? What are your plans for 2018-19?
Well, next week I start a 200-hour teacher training here in Goa, India. And then in March, I will be doing my last 300 yoga teacher training. It's based upon the chakra system and our emotions and the subtle body. I'm transforming the yoga trainings into more retreats and workshops and online courses. And I'm diving more into the healing power of sound, breath, and chakra empowerments. And that's what my plan is, and focusing more on Bali. I'll be residing there in 2019. Yeah. I'll be residing there in 2019, going back to Canada in probably May of 2018. and then I'll do the retreat, my personal retreat, and then I'll share with the community that I'm in.
Fantastic. And so how can we further connect with you? Where are you available online and so forth?
My website is feelingsoulgood.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my upcoming events. I have some free audios for deepening meditation. I have many gifts that are offered there, as well as some information on various topics. An extensive website.
Thank you. So I just want to close out by saying, Sequoia, thank you so much for coming on to Her Conversations, and thank you also to the internet for making this possible. Oh dear, I was just like, kind of, just please, just give us an hour of, and it's gone seamlessly. It's been great. And what also as well, when people are listening back, they'll be able to hear kind of like a little bit of wildlife in the background as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm right by the ocean.
It's just so nice, because I'm like sitting here actually it's a sunnyish day in London. It's a little bit cool, but it's just nice to know that this technology allows us to do that. You know me as well. I just love technology, and
Yeah.
with it, I'm obsessed with what it can do. So I'm just glad that it's made this episode happen. So thank you again for coming on board and doing it. I can't wait to meet up with you soon again somewhere. It'll probably be the end of the year in Bali as well. I'm putting that out there. That's what I need to do.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure, Carol. You also inspire me in all that you're doing and all that you're offering on the planet, and it's so needed at this time. So it's an honor for me to be part of this. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Take care.
Okay, you too. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you so much to Sequoia for joining the growing band of inspiring women who are helping me with Her Conversations week on week. I truly appreciate you and every single one of the women who've joined me so far. And thank you for listening again. And if you want to find out a little bit more about me and the work that I'm doing, you can find me on my website, which is carolmaywhittick.com. So that's carolmaywhittick.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and Twitter under Casmic, which is CAZMICK. And also press subscribe, and also feel free to share if you find any useful information that you think another one of your friends, of your sisters, will enjoy and benefit from. Please share, as I try to grow Her Conversations this year in particular. So until the next time, have a great week and take care.